Hi, this is a video for somebody specific. This is for Chris Webb. Hi, it's Kari Bund. I haven't spoken to you in 30 years, but you found me just algorithmically on YouTube. You found a video of me talking to John L.V., our physics teacher from CEDU, and I just wanted to say hello and address that because that was pretty freaking amazing. As soon as I saw that you had responded, and so other people are aware, Chris Webb and I knew each other at CEDU. Chris graduated CEDU with Jackson Nash. Jackson Nash has never left my life post CEDU. I think that I'm specifically really feel like I want to tell the story of CEDU just because ever since I've left, I would, come to California. I would go to California and visit Jackson on every 3-day weekend or every vacation I had in high school. And, 'cause I still had 2 years of high school after CEDU. And people were like, what are you doing? Oh, and the only thing that I could ever explain about CEDU was Jackson because, and what do I say about Jackson? You know what I'm going to say. It's his last name. It's who his father is. It's very strange upbringing to be raised around celebrities' children and have them be a part of your emotional mapping. And even more so because you graduated with Jackson. And the freaking hilarious thing that Chris Webb doesn't know yet is how wildly successful somebody he graduated with is. Named Adam Egan. Adam and Jackson and Tony Edelstein were the funniest trio of people at CEDU. When I got to CEDU, my mother died the first, within a month of me being there. I'll try to get that out quick. So a month after I got to CEDU, when I got there, first things explained to me was, oh, this isn't a cult. And I was like, what the fuck is a cult? I'm 14 years old. For a month, I withdrew, realized I was in an insane place with just something so complex and indescribable. It still hasn't been explained yet to the public. A month into this, I was brought into a room with Pam Abell and 2 other women, Tina Rahman and Amanda, I can't remember her last name, but and Pam Bell said to me, your father just called the school, your mother has just been in an accident, she's about to die, but we're gonna let you go home tomorrow to visit her before she dies. And the only thing that I could think of was, holy shit, I'm out of here. They had just told me my mother was going to die, and I was going to be released for a small amount of time to say goodbye to her before she had passed. The only thing that I could think of as a 14-year-old girl, had only been there for a month, was I'm out of this cult for a freaking few days. That's something. I knew I wouldn't find a way out. I knew that my father had bought into this program and that I had no voice or choice in what was happening to me, that I knew that I was there. And so the next day, Kathy Prince took me on the back of Emerson to the balcony outside patio of Emerson. And she's like, we're going to go to Connecticut tomorrow. And, you're going to sleep in your bed for one night. Then we're going to go to Yale. You're going to say hello to your mom. You're going to say goodbye to your mother. And then you're going to come back to see you. The entire time, and I was told you're not allowed to talk to your sister, your brother. You're on bans from anybody you see. You can't. And I also couldn't really I had found the guidelines of what a full time is, which is you can't sing, smile, laugh, touch, be touched. You have to remain dead on the face, and you can't react or let people touch you. Yeah, I found out my mom was going to die. The next day or 2 days later, me and Kathy Prince flew to New York. And then I think my dad, I don't know how we got to my house in Trumbull. That night, I saw my sister for a second. And I don't think, my little brother definitely didn't know what was happening with my mom. My sister might have known. Um, as soon as I could tell Kathy Prince had gone to sleep, I snuck out of my bedroom, walked down the street to my friend Marcy Gurton's house. I was throwing pebbles at her bedroom window for long enough that her and her mom just opened the door. And they're like, "Where have you been? Oh my God, your father won't tell us where you are." And I like smoked 2 cigarettes with Marcy and her mom. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm at this weird place called CEDU. I don't know what's going on, but I think my mom's about to die. But like, I know that." So I just like spoke to her, saw a friend, smoked a couple cigarettes, walked back home. And then the next day I was taken to Yale, where I was allowed 20 minutes to, be with my mom when she was like about to die. She was in a coma with my aunt. And then I just had to see like my grandma and grandparents, aunts and uncles, all these people at Yale. And I was told like I couldn't look at them. I couldn't I'd pretend they didn't exist while they were saying to me, "What's wrong with Kari? Why can't she look at us? Why won't she acknowledge we're here?" I mean, it was insane. And I had to just shut it off, right? And the reason why I'm saying, I'll tell you, so the reason why I'm talking about this is because David Bowie's daughter and Amon's daughter has recently talked about that she is involved in the troubled teen industry. And that David Bowie died when she was in a school in Utah. And, she wasn't allowed to go to the funeral. And I understand why. There would have been no fucking way that she would have been able to explain, or this school would have been able to explain to everybody at a fucking celebrity's funeral that, like, she wasn't allowed to fucking let people touch her or talk to her or whatever. I was flown back to California. She died the day I was there. And a couple days later, me and Kathy Prince again flew to New York. I didn't go home. I was just stayed at a motel with Kathy Prince, and then we drove to the funeral home. A few of my friends, I think Sarah Hall, Natasha, and Marcy Gurton were outside the funeral home and trying to talk to me. And I think I remember was told I couldn't look at them. I tried to talk to them, or I might have for a second, but I got in trouble for it. And then my mom's longtime boyfriend named Joe DeFeo found me at the funeral and stood by me, held me, and I was in trouble for that. Kathy was trying to pull me away from him, and Joe was like, "No, no, no," and he held me the entire time. Also, there was my 2 of my mom's very close, lifelong best friends. This woman named Mickey who ran a dance studio, in Westport, and Maureen Bolton, Michael Bolton's wife, who, when my parents got divorced, we lived at Michael Bolton's house while he was making the album with Time, Love, and Tenderness on it and shit. And I wasn't allowed, I think I might have said hello to Maureen. And then as soon as the funeral was over, I was, right back in the plane to CEDU. I wasn't allowed to go to it wasn't as soon as my mother was lowered into the ground slightly, I was back at CEDU. I was on a table restriction for 2 weeks because I allowed my mom's boyfriend to hold me during the service. But in knowing how they had handled other children's parents dying at CEDU, I got it easy because the girl that was making the Netflix CEDU documentary that never is going to get made because she can't even fucking talk about it, she was at some school. She got sent to Ascent. Her dad died, and then she got to go to the funeral, but she had a police escort in handcuffs and with Ascent staff. So she had, that's a little worse than a police escort as well. But at least that would take away the explanation of oh, this is culty shit. That's why I am self-policing and not looking at you and making sure that I'm not touching you. Because if there's not that element, it's very strange in if there's a police involved or authorities, it's very strange when you're just self-governing, yeah, I'm not looking at my family, whatever. When me and Jackson Nash were sitting in his New York City apartment 15, 18, I don't know, years ago, and YouTube would just come out, and we just were let's search CEDU and YouTube. I'm there's not going to be anything CEDU and YouTube. CEDU's closed, and we found Surviving CEDU. And me and Jackson sat there and we watched all of, what was available, Surviving CEDU, which is all that's still available now. It hasn't changed. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Yeah, I knew that CEDU was a cult. And Jackson was like, I don't think CEDU was a cult. And I was like, what? Like, did we just watch the same thing? Because, that was pretty self-explanatory. But it took him a good, I think, 10 years, longer than it took me to realize how hard CEDU was. And that's the whole thing, is that for most of the people that are trying to expose the troubled teen industry, they knew it was abuse from day one. They got no love out of it. They didn't get good out of it. There wasn't a statistic of people that had good experiences and bad experiences. And they didn't come out kind of like freaking. We basically went to Scientology high school. For the last few months, last month or two, I finally made myself use AI to dissect the prophets. Let me show you. I didn't even really have to start using the files that were given to me. A staff that we all knew and loved, that was there. Mel Wasserman gave this person an insane amount of paperwork to start a new school with. It was supposed to be an older student type school in a sister state. So it might have been Idaho. It might have been wherever freaking Mount Bachelor was. I'm not quite sure. But if you ever went to Hilltop, I probably have your name on paper, and I probably have evidence of if you want to sue the insurance company that paid for you to go to Hilltop, I can give that to you if you need it. I will. Just fucking ask me. I'll help you if you would like. Yeah. Paris Hilton was the first one to start talking about CEDU. Before that, it was Adam Egget. Adam Egget and Egget talked about it, and he mentioned that, yes, Paris Hilton even was at CEDU too. In Adam Eget's, episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, he talks about CEDU. He mentions a Facebook group where he figured out CEDU was a cult, and that was my Facebook group. I'm so mad at Eget for not saying my name, but I'm sure he also mentioned, that Paris Hilton went there. And the last thing that Egget says that people get mad at him for was that, sometimes he wishes that he could go back to CEDU. And that's the thing, is that if you didn't go there, if you didn't graduate, you don't understand that feeling. And just because he said that doesn't, it almost, reinforced the fact, how much CEDU was a cult. My point in making the documentary has always been to explain how that CEDU was a cult. Yes, it might have been, an emotional growth, therapeutic, boarding school, reform school, whatever. It was a cult, and it was the way that, we weren't allowed to think about things, talk about things, act out about certain things. We weren't allowed to kick anything in anger. We weren't allowed to sing songs. We weren't allowed to think about each other sexually. We weren't allowed to flirt with each other. We weren't allowed to there was just so many things that we weren't allowed to do. Yet we lived in this little community of there's 100 beds at CEDU. There was 4 groups or teams of staff that ran about 25 kids. So when you got to CEDU, your team was almost like homeroom, I guess, kind of so your day kind of ended and began with that group of people. But then the people that you graduated with, your peer group, it would change about who you were going to graduate. When I ended up graduating with, there's a lot of people that were supposed to graduate 6 months before me or a year before me. But then peer groups would change, whatever. But you graduated with about 15, 18 people about. But those people, every single one of those human beings, I know their whole life story. I know everything about them. I know, if I saw them walking a mile in front of me, I would know their body language. Not a mile. If I can see the back of somebody I knew at CEDU walking, I know them. It's happened so many times before to me and to other people. We knew each other so well that, you know, it's this thing that was said in the Synanon Fix that was on HBO, and it came out on HBO the week that I started filming my CEDU documentary 2 years ago. And it's that somebody said about Synanon that you may not have liked everybody that you were in Synanon with, but you loved them. And that was so true of CEDU. Like, somebody might have pissed you off or you thought was annoying, but if you think about them right now, I'm betting you just have love for them. And like the people that I knew at CEDU, like our friendships, like our love, like our closeness is a level that most people will freaking never know. And we know, we're well aware of that. But so start over like talking about Chris Webb. So Chris graduated with Jackson Nash. As soon as I got back from my mother's funeral, I always thought that maybe like staff like had this announcement of like, hey, don't talk to Kari Bund about her mom dying, because that's really weird. Or I didn't know how they were like telling the other kids to handle talking to me. But the only thing I remember is Jackson Nash coming up to me in the dining hall at CEDU and saying, oh, Kari, I heard about your mother. I'm so sorry your mother died. He was the only person that really said anything to me. And I think everyone, that was at CEDU with knew that like me and Jackson were like, best friends. What my boyfriend of 12 years calls he's my soulmate. We've never left each other's lives. He's, it's when you're bonded so hard with somebody like we were, it just doesn't go away. His wife, Melissa, is Superwoman. She's like, I'm trying to think of who. She's like, okay, Donna Dillman. She's like Donna Dillman, yeah, that's Jackson married like a version of Donna Dillman, for real. Like Donna Dillman, Elizabeth Maxwell, is who Jackson Nash married. Yeah, he has 4 children. He lives in Kauai, and he lives, a few islands away from you. So sorry, this is a mess of video. But Chris Webb found me in the algorithm, and it's just the most amazing thing I've ever, experienced, is that like, because he was like, he said, I haven't talked to you in 30 years. He asked if I would remember him. And to me, that was just the funniest thing ever, because he had to stay at CEDU like for a month or 2 or 3 even after his graduation. And I don't remember exactly why. But he came on my wilderness challenge with me. I'm pretty sure that Chris Webb was the guy that was in charge of taking the chandelier down in the house and having everybody polish it at night, kind of for fun, while we would just like be hanging out. We'd all just be polishing this like huge chandelier that was at CEDU, that Walter Houston, installed when he built, the building. So Chris Webb I remember very, very well. And the fact that he just was like, he's like, hey, Kari, I just found you randomly. Like, I haven't talked to you in, 30 years? He's like, I live in Hawaii. He's like, I haven't, really talked. I know that he hasn't talked to anybody from CEDU because I'm in touch with so many people. But he was like, do you talk to Cody F? Do you talk to Gemma? And I was like, yeah, I kind of, what it is, it's very strange because I'll talk to a lot of people from different peer groups that, people that were graduated in the 80s or the, way after me or whatever. And they'll be like, oh, you talk to this person. They won't accept my Facebook friend request, or they won't talk to me. Do you know why that is? And I'm like, seriously? It's probably only because you mean something to them. It's the people that mean the most to me, or not the most to me, it's either that I still haven't reached out to me or talked to me. Yet I see that they watch my stories when I post on Facebook. Like, if I post on Facebook stories, I'll immediately see they're the ones that are on Instagram, like, looking, So, like, when Chris Webb, our correspondents on YouTube, I like reposted them. I was like, hey, Chris Webb just found me. Like, that's kind of insane. And like, you know, I could see a bunch of people that you loved, like, saw that. And it's, you know, it's kind of the people that like I graduated with that like kind of are, I think they know what I'm doing, but it's either that CEDU didn't affect them as much, or they don't want to think about it, or I don't really know. It's you know, it's hard to figure out. So, you know, but I just wanted to say hello. To show you some of the stuff that like I got from a staff. Stuff like the Truth in the Children's Prophets and the parent seminar versions of the Truth in the Children's Prophets. The Brothers Keeper Prophets. These are like all the different versions. I don't know if you remember this. Where is it? But the dreams, what do I have? The values and the imagine. I've got like this, all the staff like instructions on how to fucking run CEDU, because all this paperwork was meant to start a hilltop version of CEDU, like in Idaho or somewhere, and no lesson forgot about it, and it's been sitting in somebody we know's fucking like house for almost 30 years. A lot of people ask me, like, what the point of this is. It's like, oh, can you not get over it? Isn't your life better? Like, you know, can't you just leave the past alone? It's fine and all, right? In 1999, Tim Brace, a bunch of fucking, like, Cascade people, like, Cascade alumni, like, just a bunch of, like, CEDU educated people, whatever. And I think Rudy Bentz. Rudy's name's hard to find involved in that, but it's in there. It's not even that it's in there. I can smell him. I was only CEDU with Rudy for 2 weeks. He's in there. Freaking. What I figured out is just like fucking insane. I thought it's okay when this shit was given to me. All this fucking copyright CEDU fucking information. It says like copyright CEDU Family Services, right? When this was given to me. This person, I'm saying they because I don't want to even gender them, right? I was like, so they were like, don't tell anybody that you got this from me, right? And I'm like, well, why? Like, do you think the staff would be mad at you, or like you're like a hero as fuck for giving this to me, right? And they were like, it's because I don't want to get sued by CEDU. And I was like, well, they're just an idiot because there's no fucking way that CEDU's still alive, right? CEDU closed in 2005. This is what happened. Whew. In the mid-'80s, there was a woman named Linda Houghton that worked at CEDU. She invented the term emotional growth. She was given her own school called Mount Bachelor Academy, which was featured for a few minutes in the 3rd episode of Teen Torture Inc. My girl, Elizabeth Innerman, who I've made friends with. Elizabeth Innerman was in Teen Torture Inc. and she explained, like, she was like, you know, we had to do therapy where we called each other whores. You know, that's so. Linda Houghton made the prophets, they were called life steps. So CEDU got bought by the Brown schools, and then in 2005, when it went bankrupt and was bought up by Aspen, right? They didn't buy Mount Bachelor Academy, and they didn't buy Linda Houghton's fucking CEDU school. They only bought CEDU, like the Running Springs campus, you know, the middle school, but all that stuff, right? And then they bought RMA, Ascent, Boulder Creek, and yes, it's a little sorry, but they didn't buy Linda Houghton's fucking version of CEDU because it had like evolved or changed just the wording enough that it wasn't the same thing, right? So as soon as like that happened, Linda Houghton is pretty much one of the ways that CEDU spread. as I made AI dissect the fucking prostitutes and everything, it came up with this word diasphoria or dysphoria. I don't even know how to say this word, but it's basically like my whole thing with the CEDU documentary was that I was on a podcast called Straight Outta BS, like over 3 years ago at this point. I met a guy named Jordan who had been to a place called Spring Creek Lodge. I was like his 60th episode. Excuse me. I was like his 60th episode talking about the troubled teen industry and like what I thought that like what the other schools were like was nothing like the magic of CEDU, right? There's no fucking way they could recreate like the Imagine like on a mass scale or whatever, or like anywhere else that like wasn't on that mountaintop at that time. Like when it closed, like we were all pretty sure there's no fucking way they could do CEDU anywhere else. We were wrong, very, very wrong. Well, we were right in one way, because when they tried to recreate it, right, it would be like 700 children for like a couple of days. They would not let you know what time of fucking day it was. You would be doing basically like the pounding of the pillows of the I Want to Live for so much so that the staff pretty much, if you remember the I and Me, the running of the I and Me, where you'd like, they were playing that Run for Your Life Beatles song, or I don't fucking know, it's John Lennon or Beatles at this point. There's some like Run for Your Life song, and you'd like run, and they're like, does I want to stop or does me want to stop, that thing? They combined like that with the pounding of the pillows of the I Want to Live, but they made the kids wrap duct tape in towels and bang floors for so long that like they would break their hands, or they had to do it enough so that like, the staff would see that they were broken down, right? And they would just do that every month, I believe. And this was just schools that, this was the WASP program to schools. This was like in the program. So the thing that I had recognized about how the WASP program was similar to CEDU was when Jordan told me that he had something. I was like, yeah, we had a summit stretch and I had to be Dorothy. And he was like, I had something called the stretch and I had to be Ricky Martin and sing Live and La Vida Loca. And I was like, that's the same thing. I was like, that's, like, for them to make, so, and it's a thing that I figured out is in a lot of cults. To me, it's that same thing of like snake handling in fucking religious cults, or like walking on hot coals or whatever. It's that like outer body experience of stepping out of your square, putting on an outfit and being somebody else and doing something that the group then like sometimes even raises you up to the sky. Like in Midsummer, when that scene, when she's doing like the whatever the Mayfair or June Fair, whatever dance, and she's like lifted up because she won. That's super the character stretch, like a huge element of the character stretch. It's like this the high that they gave us after we completed our fucking character stretch thing, and like CEDU, like all we all lifted up. They played Fame and we were all flying around the room and given a key at the end. It's all freaking very like, this is all like Illuminati shit. Like this is I was also told early on in my documentary by somebody that tried to make one before me that he went to RMA and that RMA would pay Clearwater, Florida royalty fees off it. What's in Clearwater, Florida is one thing. Yeah, this is a scary subject to be talking about. But I've been talking about it for long enough that I'm okay with talking about it. I don't get traumatized talking about it. It doesn't make me sick. It doesn't make me crazy. It's okay for me. For others, I know it's like they can't. I haven't been able to find a therapist for this. But, that's only because I don't think that the world has a cure for this shit yet. The levels of getting over this is kind of, I feel like there's stages for everybody. Like, they wake up to, holy shit, there's this horrible thing that, like, my parents paid to get done to me in the name of therapy. Depending on whether or not you lied while you were there and had to do therapy for shit you didn't do, based on whether or not you graduated, based on whether or not, like, there's a lot of elements of whether or not you had like whether you might still be alive today. But the kids that like I went to CEDU with that didn't graduate, that maybe only had a few, if you got through like the I want to live and like the values and you didn't graduate, those people I feel like are dead. Those I think that are so many of the suicides. I think if the kids that were there for like a few months and like leave, they're fucked for life. But like those of us who graduated, my peer group, all of us, I know where we are, except for two people. David Levin died of health issues a few years after CEDU. And we don't know where Melissa Gutierrez is. I don't know where she is. That could be because she doesn't want to be found. She just but everybody else, I know where they are. Everybody else, I'm kind of in touch with online, or somebody else is in touch with them, so I know that they're okay. And that's the same thing with your peer group. Chris Webb, I think everyone is accounted for in your peer group. Like, I seriously can't think of anybody in your peer group that's missing. There's people in your peer group I'm highly, highly afraid of. Susie Tierney, she's so does Juliet. But yeah, I just want to say hi. Chris, you were a very good part of my being at CEDU. I loved you a lot. My peer group loved you a lot because you came on our wilderness trips with us. I will never forget when we had our like 3-day solos with each other, or like our 3-day like treks, and like we were like the kids were alone and you went with it, and we're like, where are you guys gonna go? And you're like, oh, I'm gonna be at the Super 8 with these guys. Or like afterwards when we went to like the Oasis after Wilderness Challenge, you're like, and I'm like, we're like, oh my god, you're like, yeah, best kept secret at CEDU. Why the fuck do you think I came with you guys? But yeah, you were a very positive part of my being there. For the documentary, I interviewed Thalia. I know that you remember her. I've interviewed her for hours. Yeah, I just wanted to say hi. This video ended up being way, way longer than I wanted it to be. In the middle, when I, started doing the CEDU documentary, like full time, was when the program came out about a little over 2 years ago on Netflix. I was doing it for about a year, just like, I had the idea of like, I think I want to do this, it was like, I was just going to start filming video calls and conferencing with like CEDU staff and, people that had positive experiences, because I knew that it would be really easy to get people to talk negatively about it. But it's not like, I've gotten a lot of shit talking about me because they're like, oh, she's making a pro CEDU documentary and she thinks that staff should be seen like kindly. I'm like, I'm trying to explain how the Cult of Synanon then became a high school that we went to and is still running the troubled teen industry to this day. So the people that did this are alive. I think that if we're kind to them, we might be able to save generations of children from being brainwashed further. I'm sorry for that doesn't like feel kosher with people like Lathrop Liebrook or people that went to RMA who had no idea, what CEDU was like. Because RMA, as good as we had it sometimes at CEDU, that's almost like as bad as RMA had. RMA was nothing like CEDU. It was like, at CEDU on graduations, there would be like 100 alumni there from like decades. That was like unheard of at Rocky Mountain Academy. That's just one of the ways that's kind of I can explain how different RMA and CEDU were. This is like the hardest thing I've ever had to do. But like, I know it's important, and it's proven to me how important it is when Chris Webb is like, thank you for doing this. Like, it's really good that to see that you're exposing this because it's important. It needs to be talked about. And I love him and he loves me. And he knows now that, like, this might get told and he trusts the person that's doing that, right? During COVID, I was watching YouTube like I usually did because I wasn't on fucking Facebook, and I saw Paris Hilton fucking mention CEDU with Katie Mack right next to her, who never went to CEDU. So I don't know how the freak she involved in all this, but I was like, oh, so like this girl that I knew. So back up, Chris Webb. I returned for a week with Jackie Mendel for either an IME or a summit. I can't remember. Jenna Stockstead or maybe Paris Hilton's big sister for a week. So kind of weird thing. So when Paris Hilton started being the other person online talking about CEDU, besides Adam Egget, right? And she made this whole movement, and there's all these people, trying to do things, to fight the troubled teen industry. I was like, well, I'll see if I can try to help by explaining CEDU, because nobody's really explaining CEDU. She did go there. I knew there for a week. Recently, I read her few chapters about CEDU in her memoir. She didn't write them. She basically said that during her first rap, her roommate was telling her that she had to now speak in I am me terms whenever she'd be in a rap, and that during this rap, which started at night, You Left Me Just When I Needed You Most was playing, and it was just like, it was horse shit. Like, whoever fucking wrote Paris Hilton's part about CEDU, just I don't know who it was. It's almost like, let's write some horse shit so that if anyone graduated CEDU and like has any pride in what they went through, they'll be really triggered and just hate Paris Hilton because it's what it's accomplished basically. But like, everyone is like, Paris Hilton has this for us, whatever. I was like, okay, maybe. A couple years ago, as a part of her Sicko bill, I went down there, realized in the last minute, the Sicko bill was in bed with NatSap. NatSap is the company, this like umbrella company that CEDU staff, we knew, started in 1999 that would continue CEDU to this day. They are currently the company that puts a gold stamp on every troubled teenager school that makes it look legit. It makes it look like they have fact-based, like statistically based, fact-based fucking care, right? Like, the wording is so convincing that my colleague Jenna Bulis is working, and she makes like legislation. She was actually endorsing NatSap words accidentally because it sounds so fucking legit, right? CEDU is still well the fuck alive, and it's because it's the standard of care right now. I've had two friends that have worked deeply in the troubled teen industry, both from music, and when they explain to me what they're still teaching kids, it's CEDU. It's like, oh yes, CEDU's well the fuck alive. It's the standard of care. I don't know how to explain it right now, but Jesus Christ, this video is almost 40 minutes long. I just, I feel like it's important that somebody explains CEDU that like graduated, understands it, and like is willing to be open to talk to other people, because this is like the weirdest thing to talk about. There's been like really adjacent documentaries to come out in the last few years. Like it started with Hell Camp, Raised in Synanon, then Teen Torture Inc., then the program. The first one kind of about this is about the Elan School called The Last Stop. And then there's, like Wayward, which is a show on Netflix that is totally about CEDU. It's about a lot of schools, but we're all pretty sure that a lot of it's about the Rocky Mountain. I don't know. One of the writers went to, I can't even remember right now. Anyway, this is like, a crazy subject because now it also involves like the juvenile justice fucking system. It involves like youth imprisonment, and it's also the troubled teen industry is the shadow orphanage. This is an eighth of the American economy. This is involved in the insurance companies, and they will make up fake diagnoses for things, and so that insurance companies will perpetually pay for this for forever. So it's not so much about like, let the bygones be bygones. We have to be better. We have to help and stop this, because, like, Brandy Elliott is still sitting on top of that mountain sending kids to schools, and she is allowed to do so because she has that CEDU, like, background. CEDU has not been exposed as a bad thing yet, and we have to do it. Okay. I see you, CEDU survivors. Bye.